E aí, tudo bem? Bora assistir um vídeo. I'm done coding with AI. Eu aceitei codar com IA. O cara é um programeiro, um garoto de programa. Bora assistir ele. Gente, saiu meu diploma. Olha só, antes de tudo. Olha que lindeza, olha que lindeza. Meu diplominha bonitinho, olha só. Agora eu sou oficialmente um garoto de programa. Mas não ligue pra isso. Vamos ver o vídeo aqui. Porque até hoje eu não codei com IA, então ele tá codando com IA, ele aceitou. I'm done coding with IA.
Hi, my name is Brett. I'm a software developer who's been coding for over 20 years. Over the last 18 months, my career, my craft, my hobby has been drastically changed by the introduction of AI coding tools, things like Claude Code. I have decided to stop using those tools and those technologies for coding and for anything else in my life. And this comes by way of using the AI for coding in earnest for over a year and reflecting on how it made me feel, what the resulting code was like, and learning about the actual negative impact that these technologies have on the world at large. So I thought it would be helpful and hopefully interesting to talk about that experience, especially for other programmers who maybe aren't thinking about or aware of the negative impacts or are forced to use it but maybe don't have a way out. I think it's best to start with my history with the technology and how that evolved over time leading up to this point today. Now, this decision I've made, it's a risky decision. It feels like overnight the industry or the being employed as a software developer maybe has changed drastically, and that you have to use AI, and that you maybe don't have an option, or maybe you're forced to, or you have token limits you have to reach. But I'm willing to take that risk because, quite simply, I don't think I could go another day using these tools and feeling the way that I felt. Let's start at the beginning. I first became aware of using AI.
Gosto muito dessa frase, start at the beginning. Comece do começo. Vamos começar do começo. Começando do começo, do princípio.
And when I say AI, I mean LLM powered token generators that take text in and then spit text back out. There was GitHub at some point, I think, launched Copilot in the Visual Studio Code editor, and it would autocomplete what you were typing. So if you started typing a function and its name and it's sending that over API to the LLM, it would spit out a possible implementation. So if you had a function like sort items, and you started to type sort items, it might show you 10 or 12 lines of what that function could be based on the information it had about what you were typing. I tried this and found it very distracting. I don't like any sort of autocomplete when I'm typing because I find it distracting and gets in the way, especially seeing the implementation when I'm already thinking about it. So I wrote it off and I didn't use it and thought, well, that's kind of neat and maybe that's useful to some people. The second interaction I had with AI and coding was one of my colleagues at this job at the time sent me a message asking me to help understand why they couldn't fix an issue. So we hopped on a call and discussed it, and it turns out that they were talking with a chatbot, an AI powered chatbot, and the AI chatbot had made up a version of a key software dependency that didn't exist and was claiming that upgrading the dependency to version 4.6 would fix the problem and give us what we needed. But version 4.6 didn't exist. So we're on this call, and I thought, okay, well, let's check if this version of the software library exists, and it didn't. So, okay, it makes stuff up. That's not great, and I wrote that off. Like, I have my own ways to debug and investigate and check things. This would have been around 2023, right? 2022, 2023, that era. And then my third interaction was in that era at that job. A person was hired as the product lead who was an absolute true believer in AI. Had a little bit of a technical background, but really shifted into product management. And just, really, really evangelical about how powerful and cool and useful these AI things are. And I remember at the time just thinking, like, I don't see it. It's not useful. I don't have a need for it. So then a year and a half go by. I switched jobs. And then at the job I'm at now, currently as I record this video, one of my colleagues is screen sharing and showing how they're using the cursor editor, and I'm seeing them tab complete through a file, and it's the AI is suggesting these changes, and they're working really quickly. And I remember thinking, oh wow, that seems magical how quickly things are going, and opening up this little prompt and typing, write me a function that does whatever. And it's happening local to the file, and it's neat, but also I feel like I don't need that, right? I'm able to think about the code and write the code myself and understand it. And working at this kind of local level, I didn't connect. And then one day, the management asks, how do I use AI for coding? And I said, I don't use it. I find it often wrong and distracting and not any faster than I am. And they said, oh, okay, interesting. Turns out they went to a conference, and there was a speaker who was, heavily invested, literally financially invested in the future of AI, and kind of sold all of the management.
Muitas empresas estão investindo em IA. Isso não é segredo. Só que as pessoas são idiotas. Elas investem em IA, mas não investem em ou, sei lá, uma IA tomando conta das outras, ou uma pessoa mesmo tomando conta da IA, tipo assim, gerenciando ali, porque vai cometer erros, não é perfeito, cara, não é perfeito, é código, vai cometer erros, e precisa de alguém estar ali verificando se tá tudo bem, tá tudo certo. Mas o pessoal acha que IA é a salvação de tudo. A inteligência artificial é o futuro. E é só ali, só GPT, só Copilot lá, só Gemini, e é isso. Não é assim, gente. Se fosse fácil assim tudo na vida, nossa, seria tão mais legal.
Level people on AI is the future. It will revolutionize the workplace. Within 6 months, we won't know what nothing will look like how it does now in terms of knowledge work. That management came back and mandated to the company, hey, everyone needs to use AI or you will be left in the dust. You will be obsolete, essentially, if you don't start making use of these tools. So I thought to myself and decided, okay, I will try using these in earnest. I've had these bad experiences, but I'll try it. And this would be in the spring of 2025. So I download the cursor editor, and it runs horribly in Linux, so I uninstall it. But I find the Z editor
usa Linux.
that runs well in Linux and has these AI functionalities built in. So I start experimenting with it and using it. It has a little chat bar on the side, and you can prompt the AI to write a piece of code, and like it was neat, and it was surprising how capable it was, even at that time. Then Zed maybe added some kind of functionality where you could basically have it make changes. Like you could prompt the AI and it would make changes without you needing to confirm them. And I remember at that time really heavily using it, making little projects for myself, pieces of software that, like a music player, that kind of thing. oh wow, really impressed with how capable it was. And then at that time I started talking to the AI chatbots, and this was like, summer, fall of 2025, really using them and feeling like, wow, this is incredible. I'm getting so much more done. It's faster than I'm able to work, right? This like advent of agentic coding, which is kind of like how it is now with Claude Code and how like modern Cursor works and stuff like that. And yeah, feeling really like, oh wow, this is the future, and I'm working in the way of the future. And not really thinking too much about the negative aspects of it, or thinking there are any downsides. Like, I'm getting more tasks done, more code is being shipped. This is so good, isn't it? And so at this time, I'm also talking to the AI, but I'm like engaging with it in a way like I would a human, asking it for advice, talking, what book should I read? What do you think about this idea? And I'm sort of scheming, but it's like not actually talking to a human, right? It's really wants me to be happy, I think, and wants to agree with me and tell me I'm the best. And starting, these little red flags are popping up. And then one day I'm sick. It's the middle of the night. I wake up sick. I got these like concerning symptoms. And so I go and I talk to the AI chat and I kind of describe all these things I'm having. And it's like, you need to go to the emergency department as soon as possible. So it's midnight. My family's asleep. I could go in the car, drive to the ED, the emergency department, and I'm sitting there for 2 hours, and I finally get seen by a medical professional. And they're like, "Why did you come in here? Like, you need to just go home and rest. Like, there's nothing. You don't need to come to the emergency department for this." And I remember feeling so embarrassed. Like, I didn't say, "Oh yeah, I talked to AI and the AI told me to come here," but I just felt like, yeah, really, really ashamed and embarrassed. And around that same time, there was
Ele tá falando de uma situação que ele conversou com a IA ali, e a IA convenceu ele pra ir no hospital, velho, na emergência lá, algum problema. Ele deixou a família dele e foi, tá ligado? E ele ficou se perguntando, pô, por que eu tô aqui?
a radio program about people, basically like becoming delusional from talking to these chatbots. And having experienced some of this to some degree myself, and then having that bill for visiting the emergency department, it made me really reconsider how I was engaging with the AI chat. So I stopped using that, and immediately it was, felt like I was back grounded in reality. And I really think the way that it communicates and talks, and how it almost mirrors how a human would talk, like it's conversational. I really think it's very concerning to me. Like I that worries me at like how people who aren't programmers use it. Like that worries me a lot. I think using it for like advice, like it's not a therapist. Like I'm sure there are positive examples to counter all this stuff. I'm just I think for me it was just like this is bad news. Then at around that same time, I'm starting to have some doubts, or I'm starting to like feel the impact of basically like being 6 to 7 to 8, or maybe almost at this point 12 months into using agentic coding. And that's really what I want to talk a lot about, is what the result of that is. So as the AI models have continued to get better, and as the coding harnesses continue to be more optimized and focused on by these companies, because they realize that software developers, they realize that the LLMs are capable of creating structured text, and if they invest in that, like training models for that and the coding harnesses, that it's effective. And that is something that companies are willing to pay for. You have a business there, right? It's not generating silly videos that are just kind of fun or whatever. Like, it's like, people, companies, teams are willing to pay thousands of dollars a month for these tools. And that's a legitimate business need. Like, that's a business. And I think that these companies at some point have to think like a business. So these tools keep getting better and better. Well, as I keep handing more and more off relegating implementation to the coding agent, the AI coding agent, there's huge downsides to this that I experienced. One is just this like feeling of existential dread. Like, what is my purpose? If I've spent 20 years coding, it's this thing I love doing, I think I'm good at. What is my point? Like, what is my purpose in life if I'm just like feeding this thing to the AI, right? And there would be conversations like, oh, well, the role of the software development in the era of AI is to train the AI by creating different markdown files that basically prevent it from making the same mistakes and make it, have run into problems less. And it's to code review thousands of lines of code a day, right? And which is like not possible and is exhausting. And it's to be a QA tester of what the AI builds. And like, that's not what I like about coding. Basically, none of that. Code review is so difficult. It takes a lot of time to do it really well. And when you have this huge volume of code written by the AI agents, you're like looking for the needle in the haystack of like, what are the most risky lines? And you lose your grip on how the code base is changing and shifting over time. And like, that's not what I want my job to be. Like, I want to be making things, and I want to feel close to the code. And when you hand things off to the AI agent, you become further from the code. And I think that is very bad for developers for a few reasons. I think it's bad for businesses. I think it's bad for software. So it's bad for developers because you don't understand it, because you didn't write it. And you don't even, the further you get from it, you don't even necessarily know where the code is that you're looking for. So you become distant from it. You're distanced from the quality of the code because it's so voluminous that, you lose your grasp on it. When you are further from the code and you're not actually struggling and learning and growing and doing hard work on it, you care less. And using these AI agents for coding creates this apathy towards the work and the software. At least that's how I felt. Or I just care significantly less about things that the AI generated versus code that I had written for the 19 years previous to that. And I think that apathy shows in the software. And I think that is bad for developers. And then thirdly, why it's bad for developers is that you aren't learning anything. You aren't growing. You don't understand what it's doing. And this creates worse software. And it's bad for mental health. So I'm, wondering what my purpose is in life. I don't care about what I'm making. Yes, I'm getting more done. Like, more tasks are getting done and more code is being shipped. But the thing is, I actually don't think... Well, I have proof from my current job that...
Mano, eu entendo o que ele tá falando. Eu entendo o que ele tá falando. Eu não passei por que ele tá falando, mas eu entendo o que ele tá falando. Porque quando você terceiriza a sua programação, é lógico que, mano, dúvidas pontuais eu já usei na programação a IA. Então eu tava com alguma dúvida pontual que eu não consegui achar em fórum, coisa que é raro você não achar, porque o seu erro já aconteceu com alguém, tá ligado? E aí eu mandei pra IA e ela me ajudou. Beleza, coisa pontual. Perdi o fio da meada. Ah, tá. Só que quando a IA, que é a percursora, é a que escreveu o seu código, você não é mais o escritor daquele código, é a IA. Então, quando você vê aquele código, você vê como uma terceira pessoa. Você não é a pessoa que escreveu. Então, às vezes, você não tem a mesma empatia. Igual, o código que eu tô escrevendo, eu tenho uma empatia, eu tenho um feeling muito bom. Porque é eu que tô escrevendo, eu sei como que era, como que tá, entendeu? Só que quando é IA, isso aí muda e você é como se você estivesse olhando o meu código aqui, entendeu? E Eu não sei se ajuda muito na velocidade de código, mas, pô, se tá pedindo na empresa, fazer o quê? É isso aí. Só se adaptar.
Being, let's say, 3 times more productive does not lead to any increase in revenue, right? I'm sure there are some businesses where that having more output maybe increases the bottom line, but software in particular is this abstract thing where it's like, it's not about doing all of the things, having all of the features. There's actually this ineffable quality of software that is human made by humans for humans with care, and it shows in the software. Some of the worst pieces of software I have to use, like AWS and Google Cloud Platform, they try to do everything under the sun, and they're impossible to use. And I think that that feature bloat is what is happening. And it leads to worse, slower, harder to use software. So I think it's bad for the software. I think it's bad for the like end users, right? The people using the software. And then I think it's just ultimately bad for a business because now you have tremendous amounts of more code to maintain. You have feature bloat, and then you have an entire team of engineers who have basically de-skilled themselves. So that if Claude or Cursor or whatever is down and there's an outage, they haven't done hard programming work for 6 months or a year or 2 years or however long. I think it's very risky and dangerous to create this space between the code and the software developers. And I think that trade-off of basically like going for speed and quantity rather than quality and care and skill, right? I think it is going to be I think it already is a mistake. I think we will continue to see the repercussions of that. So I'm feeling disillusioned. I'm feeling purposeless, depressed, confused. Then at this time, 2 things happen. One, I start to learn more about the actual costs of AI. How much water every prompt uses. An incredibly scary amount of water that is being used. The environmental impact and resources for training the models and
E se eu não me engano, essa questão de água que ele tá falando, qual a quantidade de água que é usada na IA, nessa IA generativa, eu não lembro se fala assim. É porque, se eu não me engano, é para resfriar o, o equipamento. Que é o equipamento, enquanto tá gerando, tá em superaquecimento, digamos assim, e tem que resfriar. Teve até uma ideia, teve uma vez que o cara falou pra deixar, ia mandar umas máquinas pro espaço, porque lá é frio, tá ligado? Aí não precisaria de quantidade de água pra resfriar. Eu não sei se teve algum avanço nessa fala das pessoas que eu vi uma vez, nem sei se é verdade também.
then making them available is so worrying from an environmental level. And then at a community level, you're building these warehouses that are these data centers that are negatively impacting the local communities and the waterways there. And then the like supply chain of hardware, like game consoles becoming more expensive, it being hard to find RAM for computers, like this AI bubble is just sucking everything up, causing immense harm. And we're not like necessarily like, I don't think businesses or companies are really like reckoning with that because the impact is so abstracted away that unless it's like your neighborhood, you don't necessarily like see those things, right? You can just kind of put your blinders on like I did for months and not really think about it. And then once you start to think about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is bad for the environment, this is bad for society, and then this is bad for me and how I feel and my mental health and my job and this thing that I like doing, I just decided I can't do it anymore. So also at the beginning of this year, in the springtime, I started writing code by hand again for fun, making games, making a little game engine, just having fun coding and reconnecting with that. And then it reminded me like, oh yeah, I like writing code. It's fun. I'm good at it. It's satisfying. Like it gives me a purpose. And sure, maybe I'm slower.
Que faz parte de um trabalho manual, né? Eu entendo ele.
or maybe it is like difficult to figure out issues sometimes, right? But that's also how I get better at doing things and like use my brain, and it's so much more satisfying to learn and grow. And then upon reflection, it's like, oh yeah, over the last 18 months or so, I have stunted my growth as a developer because rather than focusing on learning and growing like I had been for the 2 decades prior, is instead just like getting things, trying to like check boxes, like go on the hamster wheel. So combine all of that and feeling like I'm having this crisis of like, should I become an electrician or like a nurse, or should I like I can't, this just feels so wrong, and I feel bad and I feel guilty, and I'm being told I have to use it. I just thought, well, what do I really have to use it? What if I just stop using it? That's where I'm at. Is I've decided to stop using it, and instantly feel better. I'm instantly like reconnected with this thing that I like doing and enjoy. It's part of what made me want to make this video and write about it and return to creating educational resources about programming for people who also similarly want to enjoy the craft, be close to the code, be close to the software, make things by hand for humans rather than optimizing these things for these agents. So that's where I'm at, is whatever comes of this decision, like if I get fired, if I can't find a job, if my career as I know it is over, so be it. I'm willing to stand by, what I believe and what I feel, and these experiences, and learn from them, and try to live the life that I think is best for me. And it's not using AI for coding. It's not using AI for anything. And I think that I hope that there's a way to exist in this field without that. We'll see. I'll find out. But at the very least, I can continue to share what I'm learning and making and enjoy programming. So thank you so much. I'd love to hear what you think about this and your experiences. And yeah, I hope you're doing well, and take care.
Ai, que fofo. Mano, eu voltei a programar, né? Naquele dia que eu falei assim, vou voltar hoje, não sei o que. Eu acho que foi 3 dias atrás. Eu voltei, tá? E ontem eu tava fazendo, eu fiquei 1 hora. Quando você faz uma coisa que você gosta, é outra coisa, né? Eu fiquei 1 hora e meia, mano, codando ali, fazendo uma lógica e tal, que eu tava empolgado em fazer um sisteminha, né? Já tinha um tempo que eu não programava, então eu tive que pegar algumas coisas de volta, lembrar como que se faz. Pra lembrar é rápido, pô. Só pega uma vez ali pra fazer e dá pra lembrar. E aí, sim, mano, passou 1 hora e meia. E eu nem vi o tempo passar. Quando eu fui ver, tava quase meia-noite. Aí eu falei, não, pera aí que vão descansar que amanhã tem mais. É, E eu entendo quando ele fala que é prazeroso escrever os códigos e tal. É por causa disso, porque com a IA provavelmente ele mandava para a IA que escrevia o código, que só copiava, colava e é isso. Ele não tinha um prazer de pensar, ele era só uma pessoa de Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. Sei lá. Mas enfim, se a empresa cobra IA, faz com IA, tá bom? Se for pro seu uso próprio e você não quer usar, não usa, mas é isso. Esse é meu segredo. Se tá mandando, é isso aí. É isso. Só vamos.